Good morning, good morning. Hi, I'm so glad to see you all. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Pittsburgh. It is Sunday, March 3rd of 2024. I am the Reverend Dr. Kate R. Walker. I use the she, her pronouns, and I am truly honored to serve as the minister of this beloved community. For those with visual disability, I'm a middle-aged, light-skinned female with light brown hair with a short bob, and I'm wearing glasses. I also have on a white Indian blouse with a traditional Khasi scarf worn in a traditional way, and because Share the Plate this month is with the Khasi Hills, and we'll be hearing more about that from Karen Lintzinger. But we just thought we'd give you a little bit of visualization of the Khasi Hills in India. You are all welcome here. If you are in person here in our sanctuary, thank you for getting out of bed, putting on some clothes, I assume, and getting yourself in place in this pew. It is delightful to see you all in person. And if you are home and you are on YouTube now or in the future, we are delighted to have you. Thank you for being with us this morning, and you are all just so welcome to be with us. We are a multi-faith, progressive religious community where all are welcome, diversity is celebrated, questions are celebrated. We are working toward unraveling all the oppressions that are in this world. If this is your very first time with us, whether you're online or in person, please be in touch with us. You can get more information, of course, on our website. And on our website, you also see is a form to start receiving our newsletter. It's a MailChimp, so you opt in. It's down the bottom of the page. But send us an email, introduce yourself, ask questions. And if you're here in person, we have a welcome desk. You can provide information of how to reach you and get information as well. And there's a few hardy people, I think, that are still meeting in social hour on Zoom following the service around 11:45. If you would like a link to that, you just send an email to firstunitarianpittsburgh@gmail.com. It's all one phrase, firstunitarianpittsburgh@gmail.com. And for those of you who are here in person, boy, are you lucky, because we have a new art show opening up this afternoon. There is you get the first kind of preview of that art show. It is very, very exciting. I understand it actually made the news this morning for Pittsburgh because of the quality of this show. There is an opening this afternoon, a formal opening from 1 to 4 p.m. And so I'm going to read what was provided, that March is Women's History Month, where across our nation we commemorate and encourage the study, observance, and celebration of the vital role of women in American history. This month, we have the fortunate opportunity to view an exhibit that tells us stories of women's work in the Pittsburgh area who have made our community and our country a safer place for women. The exhibit is based on the work of our own Dr. Pat Ulbrich, historian, archivist, storyteller, who has created this exhibit with Pittsburgh Now, a blueprint for feminist action. And they will again be hosting a open house this afternoon. And apparently Pat has some prizes for those who attend the reception. And it's just a beautiful exhibit. And what a fortunate to have this in our own home and sanctuary. I also want to highlight, we have just 2 more weeks before we're hosting a table talk with Bethel AME about reparations. And if you don't know the story yet about Bethel AME and reparations, just Google that. You'll get the stories about this extraordinary journey of our siblings that are here in Pittsburgh who lost their church in the 1950s and are reclaiming their power as a Black church, and it's just a wonderful story. But in order to attend the table talk, which is March 17th at 1 p.m., the leaders of that have asked that we do some homework as a predominantly white congregation and read this book, Reparations, A Christian Call for Repentance and Repair. And if you haven't read it yet and want to attend, you've got 2 weeks to speed read it. You can listen to it on audio. You can download it onto your Kindle. There's all sorts of ways to make sure. And I want to stress that this is their ask of us. And if to show up at the March 17th event not having read the book is in a way a bit disrespectful of their ask as a predominantly Black church of a predominantly white church, and they're asking us to know their story, to hear what they are experiencing in the United States, but also in Pittsburgh. So please, please take the time to read it. I actually find it's a very easy read in terms of how it's written, but it is kind of gut-wrenching, but the stories we need to hear. There is it part 2 or 3 of the book's discussion today? Part 2, book discussion today. Again, you're welcome to join with that. And again, if you haven't read it, attend the book's discussion, but just listen. Listen if you haven't had a chance to read it at all. But I really do encourage that to read this. It's wonderful. I want to do some gratitude today, particularly for all of our core PIN leaders, the Pennsylvania Impact Interfaith Network. Who are any of our PIN core leaders in the space? Yeah, Karen, I see you. Yeah, Bob Mitchell is recovering. And yeah, so I you'll hear in my sermon a little bit, I just came from a training that was offered by Gamaliel, who we are an affiliate of, and it was down in Nashville. And I'll talk a little bit about it in my sermon, but I just want to give my gratitude to all of our PIN core leaders, because I hope you know what a gift they are bringing to our community. And when they call on you to show up for an event, listen. They're doing something, and we are doing something important. So my gratitude, Karen, you're here, and all of you PIN leaders that are out there, as well as the Gamaliel leadership team. Truly wonderful, wonderful people. Let's take a deep breath and arrive. We are here in this space, physically, mentally, spiritually. Imagine ourselves connected to one another in this space, this sacred space, the space of community and love and connection. And we can picture ourselves connected to other Unitarian Universalists here in Pittsburgh and across the country and around the world. We turn to our chalice lighting, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. This light, may it burn bright in our hearts, given its passion to tell our stories of life, to listen to the stories of each other. For there we will find the foundation of hope. We will emerge into a hopeful people when we listen to each other's stories and we cross the boundaries and the fears. This light, may it burn bright in our hearts and minds. Welcome. Welcome to you all.
Good morning. I am Alice Carnes. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a white woman in my early 70s with silver chin-length hair, and I wear red framed glasses and a silver sunburst pendant. Today I have on a black dress with small white polka dots, and I'm wearing a pink and gray scarf. We will now look at our order of service under the words grounding, and we will have a collective reading. And I'll start. We name our collective recommitment to care for the earth, knowing the ground we live upon is sacred. We pledge to bring new life to the earth, new life to the air, new life to the waters, new life to each other, for all life is sacred. Our opening hymn is number 6, Just as Long as I Have Breath. Please stand as you are willing and able.
Still
tell the story about Noah. I know we're not a biblically based faith, but I'm going to assume you all know that the story of Noah is found in the Hebrew Scriptures. Y'all good with me? Good? Okay, I did ask for somebody to bring some hoses to help emphasize the story. Are there any, did the hoses make it? No. Oh, yeah. See, people are rebelling against my requests. I don't know. No hoses today. Well, this involves water, so think about some water. So Noah, an ancient character of a story that is found in the Hebrew Scriptures. Noah had a big family, and Noah loved to dance and sing. I can do that. Yeah, I can relate. Noah also loved playing with clay and building things. And the rest of the family was like, Noah, what is going on? You are dancing and singing, and you get your hands in the mud. What's going on? Are you kind of losing it? And Noah's like, no, it brings me joy. It brings me hope. That was okay. But then Noah, one day, started to gather all these materials, working hard on a plan, and it was clear that Noah was building a very large ark. Big old boat, an ark. And people are like, oh, Noah, you've lost it now. What is going on? Why are you doing this? And Noah said, it brings me joy. It brings me hope. Okay. But then Noah took it another step. What was Noah doing in the next step? Had a plan. Animals. Yeah. Gathering all the animals 2 by 2. All the animals 2 by 2. I will say, as a side note here, the dragons didn't need saving. They were fine. So Noah gathered all the animals, always 2 by 2, and brought them into that ark. And people are like, what are you doing? And Noah's like, it brings me joy. It brings me hope. And then it started to rain. Rain. Now, this was the desert, so that rain at first was a blessing. And then it rained even more. And it began to flood, and it continued to rain. And Noah brought his family and as many community members who would believe him that now was the time onto that community, into that ark. And then they were floating as the floods covered the whole earth. Noah just looked out in kind of an amazement, and one of his young daughters came up and said, hey, Dad, did you know this was going to happen? Did God tell you? And Noah's like, he thought about it. He said, well, I was doing what brought me joy. I was doing things that brought me hope. And life can be rough sometimes. Things can be really difficult sometimes. So I'm just doing things that bring me hope. And here we are. Still trying to build an ark. But we need a plan. And that plan will give us hope and joy. Yeah? So the next time tells you that the story of Noah didn't happen. There's a guy down, is it in Arkansas, who built an ark? Yeah, he had a plan. Yeah, I've never been to it. Anybody ever been to that ark down at? No. Yeah, I'm not sure it's on our agenda, on our tourist list. Yeah, but he had a plan too, and that's what hope does. It inspires us to have a plan. And we're going to talk more about that today. In the meantime, we'll send our children off to class where they're going to learn other wonderful things about our faith.
Shalom,
every month, our church shares our generosity with a designated organization. For the month of March, we are sharing with the Kazi Hills School Partnership. All donations are shared 50-50. Karen Litzinger is the Share the Plate speaker today, representing the Kazi Hills School Partnership. Karen has led the partnership since 2015 during her first and only trip to the school in India. She was first inspired in 2003 through the impact of sponsoring and writing to a Kazi Hills student. Karen has been involved in the church in many roles over her 35 plus years of membership. Let us welcome Karen Litzinger.
So some of you may be thinking, we've heard a lot about Kazi Hills this year. And well, you'd be right. Last year was a very unusual year for our partnership with this Unitarian school we've been connected to for over 20 years, the Annie Margaret Barr Higher Secondary School in Quran. There was so much going on in addition to ongoing cultural and spiritual activities and the annual fundraising for the salaries of the 2 teachers we support. So instead of simply telling you how special and in need the school is, yes, they still have a 100% pass rate on the graduation exam, and yes, they are still expanding and bursting at the seams. I'm inviting us into a bit of celebration. Then I'll share different ways you can be a part of this exciting partnership. Last winter, we wrote and received funds. We wrote a grant and received funds from our Social Justice Endowment to support Reverend Nangoy Suting to come to Pittsburgh for the once-in-a-generation opportunity of the June General Assembly held in Pittsburgh, and to strengthen our partnership through his warmth and wisdom. Our extra effort was needed since the Unitarian Universalist Association international structure has been in transition for a few years, with unfortunately no travel funds for such a visit. An unexpected benefit of our church's generosity is that the First Unitarian Church of Dallas then funded his trip to their church and raised $15,000 in one Sunday for our school's capital campaign for 2 new classrooms. Yeah, right. Whoa. They're bigger than us. Okay. Now, a special second thing to celebrate. Through the year, we hoped someone would be able to accept the invitation to represent our church as an honored guest at the October closing ceremony of the 50th death anniversary of the founder of our school, Reverend Annie Margaret Barr. We were thrilled that Reverend Kate could do so, while we were saddened that Eleanor Mayfield could not due to an e-visa quirk. Many of you were inspired by Reverend Kate's sermon on November 12th. You can note the date because if you missed it, you can still watch that in the archives online. A third special initiative of the year also relates to the anniversary honoring Reverend Annie Margaret Barr. As a part of this, our school kicked off a capital campaign for $125,000 for upgrades. Our partners asked us to lead a UUA, Unitarian Universalist Association, global Faithify crowdsourcing campaign as part of this. Along with our India partners and UU churches in Dallas and North Atlanta, the team successfully raised and surpassed the $19,500 for the rainwater harvesting facility so that the children of our school could have water with meals all year round. Of the 122 donors, 45 were from our local area, and we thank you once again. I hope you're feeling inspired with so much to celebrate. And now I'd like to share a few opportunities for you to learn more or become involved. A main activity of our partnership is to support the 2 teachers that we sponsor at the school. And that is why I'm here today, to ask you to please give generously to support the 2 teachers from the high school portion of the school, which was the expansion our church funded in 2016. Amazingly, 1 full year of a teacher's salary is just $4,800. Because of all the other Cossey Hills activities of the church year, we limited fundraising this church year to reaching out to ongoing donors just once. We now have over $6,000 of the $9,600 target, and we are so grateful. So we're hoping that you can join these generous donors in making up the difference through Share the Plate, or if inspired, to please give again. We hope you can also give the teachers emotional support by signing cards for them during social hour this Sunday and next Sunday. And one of the 2 teachers just started last week, so this is a chance to personally welcome her. And I have to add, since this is Women's History Month and we've got this wonderful art show, that you might like to know the tidbit that Cossey Hills is a matriarchal society. So that could be a whole sermon. Our church's partnership is, of course, not all about money. I personally have received lessons in bright optimism as our India partners were certain we could reach the $19,500 goal. And as I saw the photos of the speedy new classroom groundbreaking that started in November from the funds that the Dallas church raised in July, I invite you to connect with our school through their private Facebook page that's listed in your order of service and for those who received it at home, and it's also online on the front page for our YouTube visitors or for you later. You can meet our new teacher, who I just looked yesterday. She shared a video greeting 2 days ago. Another way to experience more of the cultural and spiritual life of our partners is to stop by the Schweitzer Room today to view the 12-minute video that Reverend Kate created after her trip. So it will be running on a loop, so you can just pop in and out until 12:30, and there's some light Indian snacks to enjoy while viewing. And if you've been inspired by our partnership, I invite you to share some time and talent to join our team, whether ongoing or with a special little project. There's a next meeting is on Sunday, April 7th at 9 a.m., and there's a little sign-up sheet at the table as well if you're just a little curious. And that meeting will include guests from India via a video link. Thank you, and Kublai, the traditional greeting. I'd love to hear it back. Kublai.
I invite our ushers to please come forward to receive the offering.
nature knows that deep beneath a winter snow, a rose lies curled and hums its song. For something always, always sings. This is the misty Easter breeze from deep despair and perished things. A green shoot always, always springs. And something always, always sings.
Thank you.
I have both a joy and a sorrow from beloved member Nancy Latimer. She said on joy that on February 22nd, her son Andrew and wife Gina and their 2-year-old daughter Cecilia welcomed their new baby boy, Santino James Clark. And everyone is doing very well. But alas, they also, their dog of 12 years, 14-year-old Zoe, died unexpectedly a couple weeks ago. He was a loving companion through their life. So the joy of birth and death and our cycle of life. We offer our heartfelt prayers for Nancy and her family and celebration. For all of you who have joys and sorrows in your hearts, I honor them. We bear witness even in the silent sanctuary of your heart. I invite you to share them with friends. Let us know of what breaks your heart. Let us know of what gives you reason to dance. I invite you now into a time of personal prayer or meditation in silence. Spirit of love, hold us in your powerful embrace. May this love fill our hearts with peace, easing our fears and anxieties. May this love flow through our bodies like a river, giving us substance and sustenance and resilience, like water quenching a desert. Spirit of life, fill our bones and our muscles and our minds with your energy. Too often we are weary and tired. Too often we are overwhelmed. The day's headlines grieve us. Our hearts break. We struggle to find hope. Spirit of justice, inspire us to break down barriers, to reach across boundaries, to be with one another in our heart's deepest embrace, to listen with the ear of our heart, and to speak with the light of truth. Spirit of love and life and justice, to all that is holy, to the God of many names throughout the ages that has been with us, we offer our prayers and our love and our gratitude. May we find hope in these words and in these moments. Blessed be, and amen. I invite you to rise as you're able in body and spirit. 391, voice still and small.
Still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing. In storm and rain, sorrow and pain, still will remain, singing. Calming my fears, quenching my tears, through all the years, singing.
Before I begin my reading this morning, I just noticed that there were some people from Causey Hills who are on the committee, and I wanted you to rise as you are willing and able, and just to thank you for your work as well. And I know there's several that aren't here, but if you go down to the table, you'll get to know who all the key people were on that effort over these many, many years. Our reading this morning is from the Reverend Nancy MacDonald Ladd, and it's entitled, After the Good News. People also come to find hope amid these meaningful but continually evolving crises. The liberal church becomes a place to hold on to when everything else seems to swirl out of control. And those who fill our congregations on Sunday morning crave not only meaning, but also ready access to comfort and assurance. Thus, when the headlines break, which they do with dizzying speed, the people we serve in the liberal churches move quickly from wanting to know what it all means to wanting to know that it is, whatever it is, will be okay in the end. This rapid shift from meaning-making to assurance of comfort makes sense for many among the progressive worshipers we encounter. It's not a sin to hope for relief from the pressure of the headlines and the persistent drumbeat of bad news. It's not wrong to yearn for quick relief from existential and moral disease. Dis-ease. D-I-S, did you get it? Ease, yeah. However, the rapidity with which we move to meet this yearning for comfort and self-assurance is a conditioned response that sometimes arises from the racial and social political location of most worshipers in our pews. We are in a hurry to find comfort because we're not used to living fundamentally comfortable lives. Isn't that the truth? Those who are accustomed to privilege consider it reasonable to expect comfort and assurance of their own fundamental decency. Much of their previous experience leads them to expect that their social, political, and religious life should be fundamentally okay on a deep existential level. And some are altogether unfamiliar with far-reaching ethical uncertainty, risk-taking that stretches their personal safety and persistent moral disquiet.
Quick poll. Who believes that the quality of life has gotten better over the course of human history? Some of you are actually thinking about this for the first time. Most are good. Who thinks it will continue to get better? Fewer. Interesting. All right, Andrew's holding it up. Okay, thank you. Interesting. Psychologists tell us that we human beings are hardwired for optimism. That is part of our capacity to evolve, to survive, is to hold the belief that the future will get better than the past. It's known as the optimism bias. Optimism bias. It abides in every race, in every region, and socioeconomic bracket. So if you are a pessimist, I'm not sure your genetic DNA is going to make it, but just kidding. But so strong is our optimistic bias that even when a person is in an abusive relationship, the victim will lean into their optimistic belief that things will get better rather than go through the challenge of leaving the relationship. In a very real way, humanity is addicted to happy endings. It's enmeshed in our cultural norms. The movie Pretty Woman, right? Happy ending. She saves him, he drops her off, but comes back at the end of the movie, and he saves her in return, right? That was not the original ending. The original ending had Richard Gere, the character, dropping off our pretty woman, and that was the end of the movie. He never came back. That was it. She just went back to her life without having saved him, and that was it. And then they did test audiences, and they all said, well, that sucks. They had to go back and reshoot the end of the movie so that Richard Gere could show up as the hero with his flowers in his limo. Completely different ending. Everybody loved it. Thank you very much. In storyteller folk wisdom, there's a saying that says, in the end, it's all good. And if it's not all good, then it's not the end. Yeah. So here's a story. During the Vietnam War, a U.S. Navy vice admiral who was held for more than 7 years in North Vietnamese prison noticed a surprising trend in his fellow inmates. Some of them survived the appalling conditions that they had to endure, and others did not. And he wondered what was the difference. And he noticed that those who didn't survive tended to be the optimists in the group. As the Vice Admiral James Stockdale said, that they were the ones who said they were going to be gone and home by Christmas. And then Christmas would come and go, and they were still there. And then they would say, we'll be gone by Easter. And Easter would come and go, and they'd still be there. And then they said Thanksgiving, their optimistic bias compelling them forward. And he said, and they were the ones that died of a broken heart. Optimism failed them. I'm asking today, would hope have saved them? So today I want to explore the difference between optimism and hope. The difference is crucial, and perhaps so crucial that the survival of humanity may be at stake. The theme of our month is emergence. It's a driving question for me today. Can we emerge into a strong, hope-filled people of faith? To truly proclaim our hope-filled message. As progressive religious liberals, we have some reckoning to do with our history, though, and with our optimistic theology. Did you know that our theology is optimistic? That we have optimism embedded, our very bias is in our theology. Some of you are going, what theology? That's cool. Let me do a quick review. Last week, as I said, I was at this training that Gamaliel, a community-based organization that Penn is an affiliate of, and it was down in Nashville. It was a wonderful experience. It was interfaith, multiracial. And the first day, they asked us to go around the room and say what gave us hope. And everybody said some story about a person that gave them hope, somebody who had overcome all sorts of challenges and been courageous and had a great achievement. And those people gave them hope. That makes sense. Yeah, but did I mention this was a religious training? Nobody said their theology. As it came around to my term, I as usual, bucked the trend. And I pointed to myself. And I said, I'm an introvert, first of all, but I'm Unitarian Universalist, and I cultivate my own hope. I cultivate my own hope as my theology that's grounded in nature. That's grounded in nature. Since the Enlightenment, Unitarian Universalists predominantly our progressive theology as grounded in that God is all good. That God is all good and that is pervasive in all life, including nature. The universe, therefore, is good. Humanity, therefore, is inherently good. Since the Reformation, this is Unitarian theology. And therefore, since all is good, all will be well. That's where we go with it. That all will be well. We're on an upward trajectory of improvement. There are going to be some bumps and some bruises. We might move sideways. We might move a little step. But in the end, God is too good to let us fail. That wonderful quote by Unitarian minister Theodore Parker, often attributed to Martin Luther King, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Yeah, that's optimism. President Obama, who is a product of mainline progressive faith, loved that quote so much he had to put it into the rug in the Oval Office. He knew it was Theodore Parker. This Enlightenment optimism is contagious. It's wonderful. It speaks to people. And the Universalist theology, God is an all-loving God. God loves all. Universal salvation for all. All will be saved. By the mid-20th century, there are echoes of throughout the progressive mainline faith of both Unitarian and Universalist optimistic theology. The mainline churches heard our theology and said, yeah, I want a piece of that. And you can hear it now in echoes of their theology, that we have inherent worth and dignity, that we are all good and we're divine, we're holy. What about humanism? I see you out there. What about humanism? Progress is built upon our own virtues and our character. We shall overcome through creativity and fortitude and brilliance with the power of science and reason. We will find all the solutions to the most vexing problems. The age of science and revolution continues to directly impact our attitude about progress for all. This is the theology I was raised on as a UU. Yet in our optimistic theology that helps us get out of bed in the morning, what do we do with those daily headlines? There's a cognitive dissonance between what we believe and the fear that we feel. Climate crisis, the attacks on democracy, the rise in religious nationalism, dysfunctional U.S. Congress, systemic racism, poverty-stricken migrants and immigrants and refugees desperate to get into our country, Israel, Gaza. Don't even get me started on China. I know that you've come to church in part because you want your optimism reinforced. Your deep beliefs that things will get better. You walk in with your broken hearts and your soul's bereft and your thoughts, what do I do, Reverend Kate? What do I do? You come for comfort, for encouragement, and to have your faith in one another affirmed. That's a good reason to come to church. However, as we heard in that reading, it was an excerpt from Reverend MacDonald Ladd's book. She critiques UU theology, that we yearn to have our comfort reinforced, to have our comfort reinforced. There can be no change if our comfort is being reinforced. If we don't like what's going on in the world, we cannot have our comfort reinforced. I can't tell you that things are going to be okay, that things are going to get better. Our 20th century, 21st century evolving theology, reliance on progress and optimism has some fault lines. Pew Research is telling us that some of the people who are coming in our pews are younger generations or emerging young adults. They want more than simply optimism. Their experience in this world is demanding that they want more balm for their weary hearts and their confused minds. They're traumatized and exhausted, and they're battling fear every day. Indeed, I have to confess, I came to realize several years ago that my faith as a UU spiritual humanist has been misleading me with false and ultimately unreliable myth. My optimistic bias, that guidance system that I've been relying on for so many years, was not full-worthy. It was not working for me all the time. In fact, it was starting to fail. Like a GPS, it kept leading me into the wrong one-way roads. So over time, I came to accept that human progress is not guaranteed. There's no mystical or divine presence that's going to come and salvation for all. We can't just wait it out in our comfort zones. So what do we do with our Unitarian Universalist progressive theology? Do we chuck it? Do we start fresh? Do we close the doors? Oh, no. Every worthy theology, including our own, must withstand the test of living amidst our fears and our failures and our fault lines. It needs to have the capacity to change and adapt and mature and be a relevant, living theology that speaks to our lives. So I just want to pause for those who are here for the first time in your church shopping. Stick with me. You haven't tasted our coffee yet. So this is what I have done as I let go of my false optimistic reality. I grieve. I grieve. I grieve for all that we have not done, and I cry and I mourn. I let myself feel the deep pain of that myth of losing dreams that were false. And when my tears have dried up and my cheeks are dry, my body feels unburdened and released, and I let a transformation begin. I let hope emerge. I let myself find hope again. And then I'm able to be a human being, to lead, to speak, to thrive. And I understand hope in a new way. Little by little, I think optimism is wonderful, but it needs hope as a partner. They have to go together. There's a difference between optimism and hope. Optimism is hardwired into our brains. It's a worldview. We need that. Optimism is positive thought patterns, helping us see that the sun is shining and let us have gratitude in response. Hope is different. It requires that we see reality for what it is, that there is pain and suffering for too many of our vulnerable and marginalized friends and family and our neighbors. Then hope begins to emerge when we start to envision a different future. A different future. And here's the hard work, we got to set goals and how to get to that future. And then we have to commit to action on creating that future with those goals in mind. Now, if you saw the movie Rustin, which I hope you did, about Bayard Rustin, who was the architect, the dreamer, the designer, the worker behind the 1963 March on Washington. And you saw that Bayard Washington, and like other black leaders, they grieved regularly for their lost dreams. They grieved regularly. And then they didn't sit back and give up. They started to dream of a different future, and then they worked really, really hard, strategically hard, with lists that they then crossed off and built new lists. The result was that they shot way past their 100,000 people in attendance and got 250,000 people. It wasn't just a dream come true, it was a work come true. Hope is harder than optimism. Hope requires daily maintenance, care, staying attuned to the world as it really is and why and how it needs saved. Hope is not assumed, it is gained. It's developed out of hard work with skills that are honed to the dire needs of this world. It requires a vulnerability and a courage to risk and make mistakes now and then, to be creative, and a life-saving humility that we can't do this work alone. We gather in community not only to find comfort, we gather to connect to one another, to where our hope can take root and emerge out of our work, to connect with one another in our pain and our suffering so that we can lament and cry and stamp our feet in dismay and then realize all that is wrong with the world, and then we can emerge with a stronger, more resilient hope based on the hard work of our plans. Many years ago, as a hospital chaplain, I learned the most important life lesson of my ministry. I was there in that context, a trauma hospital. I was a representative of God for a lot of people. And I was in their hospital room with their beloved or with the patient, hooked up to machines, a heart attack, a car accident, all sorts of horrific things in their life. They wanted hope. But I could not tell them everything would be okay. I didn't know that. I could not tell them everything would be okay. What do we want to say when we see people suffering? That everything will be okay. What I learned is that I would walk with them. I would journey with them. I would be at their side just as I am with you and you are with me. We go on this journey together, and that is my first calling, to be with one another. Beloved, hearing your stories and you hearing mine, this is the foundation of hope. We take that vulnerable moment of sharing our fears and our pain and our joys and our celebrations, the story of our lives. That is the foundation of hope. I can go out and walk in nature around the serenity of the forest, but I have to come back to community. When we are here together, we build the muscles of hope, and it's built on the trust that we offer one another. And it's a huge leap of faith, my beloved. It's a huge leap of faith to trust one another with our stories, but that is where transformation takes place. Not you sitting in pews facing me. It's when you turn to one another. It's a courageous act. I have full faith that this community will be part of the Pittsburgh story for another 200 years. When we hear the stories, we see the lens of truth, and then we begin to find that hope is a choice, a commitment to save the world by our own collective power. So I believe Theodore Parker was correct, that the arc of the universe bends toward justice, but he left out a clause. We are the ones bending that arc. We are the ones bending that arc. We are called to journey together, to build hope, to emerge into something extraordinary. So my challenge to you today is to continue to share the stories with one another. Maybe in a covenant group, maybe in a committee meeting, maybe open up a business meeting. How about finance committee? Open up a finance committee with somebody sharing their story instead of the budget. How about stewardship committee? Open up with a story rather than, oh my God, how are we going to raise $1 million? We will find hope in one another. And with a plan and a commitment, oh my God, we're unstoppable. Unstoppable. May it be so. Amen. Ashe. Shalom. Take a deep breath and then rise as you're able. Rise to sing 346. Come sing a song with me and then mean it. I invite you to remain standing as you are able and bringing your voices together as we extinguish our chalice. The words are found in the order of service as well as our hearts. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Go forward into this world, my beloved. Go forward into this world, not with your comfort affirmed. Oh no. Go forward into this world with your hope affirmed. Figure out a plan. Commit to it. We are the ones that are creating the hope. We are ready to emerge. Are we not? Oh, yeah. Are we ready to emerge into a world of hope? Yes. Go forth and return again in hope.